Welcome here to a very special broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. In our coverage of the American Athletic Conference, we have the opportunity to look to every single school, including the 6 new institutions as full-time members, and one of those being Rice University, coming to us from Houston, Texas. The Owls coming into the American Athletic Conference, making the decision official on my birthday, which is October 21st, 2021, and then officially making the move on July 1st of 2023. As we step into football season, this is the first time that we will see the Rice Owls inside of the American Athletic Conference. And with that being said, I am proud to have on the show for the first time ever, Mike Bloomgren, the head coach of the Rice Owls football program. Mike, how are you?
I'm great.
You know, and I'm happy to have you here, Coach. You and I were talking off the air a bit about different things. Just, you know, what you can say about what this move means for Rice University and for the football program specifically into the American.
Yeah, I think it's just better week in, week out. It's also better day in and day out for our student athletes. Like what we've been able to do, the commitment Mike Oresco makes you make when you decide to make that jump into the American Conference is awesome, because you start treating your kids really top level, as good as anybody in the country right now with the food we're giving them and every modality to get better, every performance metric we can put, whether it's force plates, whether it's NORD boards, whether it's GPS on them, just so we have all the data to help them reach their peak. And so all those tools, and then you talk about just the football coaches and some of the traditions in this conference, we couldn't be more excited.
You know, and like you said, you know, Mike Oresco, the commissioner, who's, you know, perennially been on the show numerous times during the year over the last decade, you know, you said what he asked you to do, what he commands from you. What did that, you know, when you first got to interact with Mike Oresco and the American Athletic Conference staff, can you bring me into that first interaction, be it in person or on phone, and just what your first impression was of Mike and of this conference?
Yeah, I think first off, like, his reputation precedes him, right? Like, you've heard his name, you've heard him building the brand of Power 6 for a long time, and, you know, now it's pretty clear it's not number 6, and it really hasn't been in the sport of football for years. You see them making appearances in the playoff and making a lot of noise over the course of the last 5 years at the top level of college football. So I think that was impressive, just to know this guy's about to walk in the room and talk to us. And he comes in there in Vail, Colorado at the conference meetings, and, you know, he just sits down, and he's got such a presence, and he's got such a great plan. It's easy to follow him, and it's easy to get excited about what he's talking about.
You know, and when you look at this conference, like you said, what the conference has been able to do, from the outside looking in and now the inside looking out, when you talk about, like you said, you know, the quote-unquote Power 5, and Mike Oresco always saying, you know, this is a Power 6, it's not a Power 5, we're a Power Conference. From the outside looking in at the American, when you weren't within this conference, how did you view it, and what were you seeing from the level of talent and competition from the outside?
Yeah, I think, like, you look at it and you're like, man, there's a certain level of jealousy, right? You're like, man, they are a really good conference. That is really good ball. And then, you know, like, in recruiting, like, that can't get lost. Like, there's several players on our team right now that we wouldn't gotten if we hadn't announced that move to the American. Like, you don't get players like JT Daniels, no matter how good your relationship with them is, if you can't show them a path to play great teams, to excel, and then to have a chance to get drafted.
Yeah, you know, and for you, Coach, I mean, for Rice University and your time there, when you, like you said, looking at this conference, the American, from the outside in, from the inside out now, as Rice comes into this conference, now what are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of what you saw from the outside? Like you said, you know, out from the outside, you were jealous of seeing the success they've done and what they've been able to bring to the table and being in the college football playoff. Now that you're on the inside, what do you see?
Yeah, I just think that it's probably what I expected. Like, and the emergence of some of the new coaches, some of the programs that are just taking great steps. Watching what Willie Fritz was able to do at Tulane last year. They played Houston the week after we did. You know, we had a great game with University of Houston, team across town, and we, you know, had the ball on the 9-yard line with a chance to tie the game. And we weren't able to get it done, and you know, so be it. Then the next week, I believe Willie goes into overtime with them, and they find a way to beat them, and that leads to this unbelievable season that culminates with the Green Wave beating USC in the bowl game. And it was just so special to watch that team in particular from the outside, and now to just have more conversations with Willie, to just talk more about what he sees in this conference, and to hear all the guys, all the coaches in this conference, and the respect they have for the conference and their other opponents. It's probably what I thought it would be, but it is still very exciting.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, and that happened right down the road from where we had AAC Media Days, literally right there within walking distance at AT&T Stadium, the home of the Dallas Cowboys. I was at that game, the Cotton Bowl Classic between Tulane and USC, which truly lived up to the name as it was an instant classic. To have the American Athletic have their first media days in 4 years in person, and to be there for that, and to have literally in a shadow over Texas Live from AT&T Stadium where that game was played, and where the American Athletic really was, put into the spotlight and handled it ever so well with Willie Fritz and Tulane. What was that like, and did you reflect on that, saying, here we are at Media Days for a new season, and we're overlooking the stadium where, once again, the American Athletic Conference proved that they're a lot bigger than they get credit for?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of gravity in that, and what you just stated, being able to look out the window of the hotel and be like, yep, there she is. There's AT&T. It looks like the largest UFO ever to land on the planet right there. But you're thinking, like, not only did that game just take place there, but then you have the reality check of, hey, man, if we get our job done in this conference, we'll have a chance to play in one of those unbelievable bowl games and compete on the national stage, because that's what this conference has earned. And so there's a lot of excitement in that. There was so much excitement for me as I looked around the room of head coaches, and you see guys like Willie Fritz that I've studied what he did when he was at Sam Houston, what he did when he was at Georgia Southern, and the way he ran the ball. It's always been tremendous. Guys like Tom Herman that I remember breaking down when he was at Ohio State, those guys now being head coaches in this conference. And then old friends that I've talked a lot of ball with, whether you're talking about Mike Houston at ECU, who when I was the offensive line coach at Catawba College in 2002, I recruited his high school in Asheville, North Carolina, when he was at TC Roberson, or, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis. Like, guys that I've just known forever. He and I were in the NFL at the same time. We've talked a ton of offensive line play. We've talked a ton of scheme. And now we talk things like staff management. And, it's kind of nice that we don't play Ryan this year. I do play Mike Houston. So, and I know what a great coach he is and what he's done with that program. So there's all these cool challenges. But, yeah, seeing all those people in the same room and looking around, you're just kind of humbled. You're like, oh, my gosh, this is a great conference with great coaches.
And you're bringing that up here in this American Athletic special on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, featuring the Rice Owls and head football coach Mike Bloomgren. I was going to do exactly what you just did, take a look around that room, and when we hear, when you hear these names, Willie Fritz, Tulane, Jeff Traylor of UTSA, Tom Herman of FAU, who was in the conference before with Houston and won the first ever American Athletic football championship game in Houston, and I was on site for that, Houston against Temple, with Greg Ward Jr., and still have that video of him kissing the trophy. Rhett Lashley at SMU. You mentioned Mike Houston at East Carolina, Ryan Silverfield at Memphis, Kevin Wilson at Tulsa, Alex Golish at South Florida, as well as Eric Morris at North Texas, Stan Drayton at Temple, Biff Poggi at Charlotte, Brian Newberry at Navy, and Trent Dilfer at UAB. When I read off those names to go a little bit deeper into the head coaches, what comes to your mind? What words, what phrases, what thoughts and feelings come to mind when I mention those names within the American Athletic Conference football?
Yeah, I think two things: experience and proven winners. That's what you see when you look around this conference, and that's, again, just really cool. I mean, Kevin Wilson, the success he's had as a coordinator, and then taking Indiana, really starting that ascent for them. It really is like person by person. And you brought up Jeff Traylor. I've got all the respect in the world for Jeff Traylor, the way he runs his program, how hard his kids play, and to do it the way many of us did it, right? Like, Traylor started in the high school ranks, and it wasn't that long ago for him. And he's just worked his way up, position coach, and then getting this opportunity at UTSA and hiring a staff that he's in love with, and a bunch of kids that play incredibly hard for him, like I mentioned. Like, he's got some magic there. And so all these guys, to act like there's not something I could learn from all of them would be crazy. I really do look up to a lot of those guys and can't wait for the opportunity to play them.
And, for your history, like you said, looking up to the other coaches here in the American Athletic Conference and respecting them, you've been at Rice since back in 2018. And, we look at your time at Rice, and obviously the COVID year, only 5 games played. We're still working toward a winning record at Rice. What can you tell us about Rice University that people don't see from the outside looking in as you've worked from 2018 to build up this program and to create, obviously, a winning culture? What are you doing that is behind the scenes that we're not seeing in the win-loss column that you feel like people should know foundationally or culturally? Hey, the Rice Owls are doing X, Y, and Z, and this is what's going to help us finally get over that hump. What are some of those things?
Yeah, I think fundamentally maybe it's hard to see some things on tape, especially when you take over a program, that won one game the year before, and you're constantly trying to build it brick by brick and build it the right way. It takes a little time, but these kids have done what we've asked. They've pushed, and they are making progress. They're taking steps to be better, and they're doing it while competing in the classroom too at the highest level, getting a world-class degree. And so that's our deal, right? Like we want people that absolutely love this great game and who want to play big-time college football and get a world-class degree. And that's what we're pushing, right? I think we were second in America in graduation rate last year. We've had 2 years of perfect APR, and we're getting better on the field every day, every year. And we're ready to get more. We put in a lot of work. We're ready to have a few more celebrations than maybe we've had in the past, and we think this could be a great year for us.
What are some of those things that you think are leading this specific roster into what you believe could be a special year?
I think we're just so much more developed. When I was at Stanford, David Shaw's dad was around a good bit. His name's Willie Shaw. He was a longtime coordinator in the National Football League. And, he would just drop nuggets of wisdom on you. He'd be like, hey, guys, I understand what you're saying about this kid. I understand how talented he is. It's a junior-senior sport, and don't forget that. And now, we're not dealing in college football with normal juniors that are 22 years old, right? I've got 6-year starters coming back this year. And they're 24 years old, and that's a different dynamic that we've had. So you've got the experience and people who know exactly what we want it to look like in our program. And then you bring in some outside talent because of the modern era of college football with the transfer portal. And that's guys like Grant Banks. It's guys like Colvin Coco. And, of course, bringing in a quarterback like JT Daniels, who I've always thought, he was my first offer as offensive coordinator at Stanford in the 2019 class, before he reclassed. And we just thought he was so talented. We had him at camp. I knew his offensive coordinator at his high school at Mater Dei really well as head coach. And I just watched him forever and recruited him forever. And I guess that's the thing, right, is I am nothing if not persistent and trying to get persistently better and continuing to recruit JT anytime he jumped in the portal. And now he's our quarterback. And that's a lot of fun because it is the most important position in all of sports. And we got a really good one.
Yeah, and you talk about that. You brought him up a couple times, JT Daniels, your quarterback now. Here's a grad student. Like you said, you've recruited him numerous times. Why do you think you finally got him?
I think everybody gets to a point of different goals and different paths. And I think if you ask JT, is this how you thought your college football career would play out? He would probably say not in a million years. But at the same time, when he got to this juncture and he entered the portal again, we were able to show him a pro-style system, a West Coast offense, led by our offensive coordinator, Marcus Tuiasosopo, who played quarterback in the NFL himself as a second-round draft pick, and say, this is the blueprint. This is what we have around you. We got a lot of great pieces in place when you talk about guys like Luke McCaffrey and a fifth-year starting tight end and Jack Bradley. It's a good run game with a solid offensive line in front of you. And I think we were just able to paint a clear picture of this could be a really good path for you. And I guess JT believed it.
And looking at his history, USC in the beginning, season-ending injury, then off to Georgia, and then, we see him most recently at West Virginia. He's had a very unique road as this is his fourth college. And so, what have you kind of seen from maybe his mettle and just his mentality and his attitude, because he's had a road where the first fit wasn't the right fit. Then you spend some time in Georgia. but then, okay, let's go over to West Virginia, see what we could do over here. And now, we see him at Rice. How do you feel like he's kind of handled all of this, and what type of person do you see standing in front of you today? Because obviously at quarterback, in a lot of ways, they're not only the leader of your offense, they're the leader of your team. So how have you kind of seen who he is and what this road has kind of made him into, so to speak?
Yeah, when you talk about the quarterback position, we're always talking about things like quarterback lifestyle. Like, is the guy going to commit to doing the things to be great? Because, playing college football in and of itself, you always got to make decisions. And, like Nick Saban says it all the time, it takes what it takes, and it really does. But that position's unique even more so in terms of the time commitment it takes to master an offense. And I think we all always say we want our quarterback to be an extension of our coaching staff. And this kid, comes in the building at 6 a.m. to watch film. He's in the building like a coach. And then also, when you're doing player-led workouts or anything like that, or even when we're on the field, there's times he's beating our coaches to make a correction. Hey, I don't want you to run it like that. I want you to make sure you're getting your depth here. Look over your outside shoulder. The ball will be there. And so, again, there's just so many experiences. He's been in a couple really good systems. And but I think he's the best fit for a pro-style West Coast system because he does study so much film. And we give him all the tools to do what he needs to do to make this thing go.
And you kind of led into it, speaking here with Mike Bloomgren, the head coach of the Rice Owls football program, jumping into the American Athletic Conference for the first time this season. Your style, what you see as a head coach that you feel like offense, defense, and special teams works for you, how would you describe the Rice Owls to somebody who doesn't know them, who hasn't maybe watched this team under you since 2018? How would you describe what the identity is for the Rice Owls when you step onto the field?
Intellectual brutality.
I like that. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we're recruiting kids that could get into Rice, right? So they've got to be smart, and if we didn't use their minds, we'd be crazy. We wouldn't be using one of their talents. And so we're going to use their minds. We're going to have them go to the line of scrimmage with multiple plays and multiple ways to solve things. If we've got a bad play on, we don't want to run it. And more than that, with a guy like JT who sees things so well, you can advantage check. And so, again, you can get to the perfect play against that defense. And we do the same thing on defense. We're always going to have checks and always going to have great answers from our coordinators to our play callers on the field, if you will, and give us the chance to be in a very, very good call. And then when the ball turns over, we want to unleash holy heck on the guy across from us, right? We want to play this game the way it's designed to be played in a completely physical manner.
I love that. Intellectual brutality. I feel like that's going to be a stamp that I put on when I'm talking about Rice throughout the season. That's going to be in the back of my mind the whole time. That is, I've never heard anything said that way. And Mike, they say first impressions matter. My first impression of you with intellectual brutality, I like that. I might have to steal that in certain sectors of my life. I might have to take that from you.
Be careful, we got a trademark.
Okay, fair enough. Before I let you go, the scheduling model for the American Athletic Conference for 2023 to 26 is putting us in a situation where we have the opportunity, without divisions, to see every team get to play each other home and home. And so if a student-athlete stays 4 seasons to get their education, they have the opportunity to see everybody twice and see them obviously on their home field as well as on the road. On top of that, there are 6 matchups that will be played annually. Yours in sports, in college football and beyond at Rice, is going to be your rivalry that they're working on here with UTSA. You come with UTSA from Conference USA. Do you feel like there's already a rivalry there? Has there already been something in the works? What can you say about that Rice-UTSA yearly matchup? And do you like the scheduling model that doesn't have divisions and offers home and home within a 4-year period?
Absolutely. I think Commissioner Oresco did a great job with the scheduling model. As far as our natural rival, if you will, being UTSA, it makes a lot of sense. It's a 3-hour bus trip down the road. And, but I think to make it a rivalry, we got to beat them suckers. And we're working on that. They're, like I said, they're the top team in our conference the last 2 years. And they have played some dominant football. Coach Traylor's doing a super job. But the bottom line is, because of proximity, because so many of our kids played high school ball together or against each other, there is a natural rivalry there. And it's kind of true with all of our schools in Texas, but UTS is our closest one.
You know, and when you look at the scheduling model, Mike, you know, this model has you already set that you're going to know what your home and away games are for this season, obviously, 2024, 25, and 26, to be able to look ahead. And I understand that every coach has to look at the next game up, but as a coach, knowing these are our home games, these are our away games, this is what we have, and having SMU, having North Texas, having UTSA in the state of Texas, just what those games can do recruiting-wise in helping you, as well as seeing the schedule set out for this season and the next 3 seasons inside of the American. What does that do for a coach? Does it give you, the exhaling of a breath and kind of understanding, all right, this is where we're going to be? Does it matter to you at all? Do you think about it at all? Are you a planner where this is a great thing to have? How do you look at it?
Yeah, I just think all of us coaches love being in control and having all the information we can as early as we can. So from that standpoint, it's nice. I think from a recruiting standpoint, you're absolutely right. Like, for us, we're going to recruit the heck out of the great state of Texas. And, you know, that's going to be a win. I mean, obviously it's great high school football down here and great talent. But you know what? Like, we're not going to have our entire roster from here. It better be more than half our roster. But at the same time, we recruit sea to shining sea. I think we got 10 guys from California. We got a handful from Florida, a handful from the Northeast. So when you talk about going up to Temple or going up to Navy, those will be great trips for those. I mean, I imagine they'll have tons of family members. And so as we go forward in this recruiting, and we do recruit sea to shining sea for those kids that do want to be great at both, you know, like we talked about, big-time college football, world-class degree, maybe that helps us get that kid here, knowing that he's going to at least get to make one trip home at the very minimum to play in front of his friends and family.
Well, I will tell you this, looking in the Northeast, in my hometown of Syracuse, New York, there's some NFL talent that's come out of Central and Upstate New York. So you ever want to come up this way and take a look around these parts, you'd be more than welcome to, and we make sure we give you a true welcome. We got some great food up here, but there's some guys that have been diamonds that not everybody's looked for, but the coaches that have definitely seen it pay off in dividends. So the Northeast is not a bad place to look, Coach.
Yeah, we got a starting quarter from Iona Prep, so that's not quite as far up as you, but, you know, I mean, hey, and you're after your own heart now when you start talking about that food. If you want to send me a beef on weck or some cannolis, I'm in.
Yeah, and that's the thing, being Italian and Hispanic, a lot of Italian food up here. Coach, before I let you go here in closing, I want to go to some things outside of football, and you led me right into it. I've been to Houston a couple times. Obviously, I was there for the first American Athletic Football Championship game. I was there for the Final Four back in 2016. If I'm coming out to Houston or the surrounding areas, tell me about the food and things to do. Like, when Mike Bloomgren gets to step away and you're with the family, where are you eating? What are you eating? What are you doing? Paint the picture that if you and I had 24 hours in a car together in Houston, I want to know what that would look like and what we would be doing.
All right, so I'm pretty boring from a hobby standpoint, but food is I can take you there. So let's go. So we're going to go first. We're going to go to the Breakfast Club in the Third Ward, and you're going to be so full you won't want another meal. But then we're going to go to Turkey Leg Hut, and then that evening we just got to make real decisions because we've got such a sneaky good food scene here in the third largest city in America. That, like, do you want Tex-Mex? Because we'd go to Candente. Do you want steak? There's so many great options down here. I think I'd probably take you to either Steak 48 or Gore's Metropolis. And if you want barbecue, we're not going to go far from our campus. We'll go to the pit room.
All right, I like that. How's the brisket in Houston?
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, how's Texas? Well, I grew up here when I was 5 to I was 10, so it's kind of cool to be back. But you'll love the people, you'll love the barbecue, and you'll love Buc-ee's. And if you don't know what Buc-ee's is, I got to show you that on your trip here too.
Oh, absolutely. So last note here, Coach, best piece of advice you've ever received, something that you could put up on the wall in the locker room and you feel like with any team, any season, it would make sense.
Oh, man, it's hard to pick one. From a coach's standpoint, I love to tell my coaches all the time, like, start as you mean to go on. And that's the same in parenting as it is in coaching. And that's basically set every expectation you want players to meet because they will live up or down to those expectations. In the locker room, though, I think, you know, like you are either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same. And so what do you want to invest today to make sure you're taking a step to get better?
That coming from Mike Bloomgren, the head coach of the Rice Owls football program as they head into their first season in the American Athletic Conference. Mike, it's been my absolute pleasure to put a spotlight on the Rice Owls and Rice University in Houston, Texas. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to the next opportunity that we have to spend some time together, and obviously I wish you the best on your season.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.